Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. We've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon, let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless. Rob Parker. Shannon is out today. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Missed you, Shannon.
We did.
Oh, what
You
are
came back.
Say?
Rob came back.
After yesterday, after what I did to you yesterday,
Curious about
and what
that.
I'm about to do to you right now.
Skip,
Way
you
to
need
go.
some competition in your
do.
life.
I do.
And I'm here to
And
provide that.
Jenny provides it, so.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I
way to
try.
go.
I do what I can.
All right,
What's
Rob.
up? How
I'm
you
glad
doing?
you're back today, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah, you always have a great energy, good debate. I think we got a lot to get
Whatever
to
you
today.
say.
You know, see, Jenny understands. She identifies talent when she
really?
sees it. Yes.
I do what
Thank
I
you,
can.
Jenny.
I've been around a couple months now, so I'm starting to figure things out. But we have a lot to get
You
to.
went to the dog show last week.
Hey, we were
What are you
off.
saying? I'm a dog.
I was working last week,
No, but
Skip.
he's trying to say I was a dog, so you could have identified.
I
Is that what it
figured,
is?
but I was going to let that go. We've got to get on with our show, and we're going to talk about things like this. Does Dak Prescott deserve the big bucks? I want to hear what Skip has to say. And will Zion Williamson become the next LeBron? But let's start with Antonio Brown. His days in Pittsburgh are basically over. AB posted a picture yesterday with Steelers president Art Rooney saying they, quote, cleared the air on several issues, and he added they both agreed that it's time to move on. AB's agent Drew Rosenhaus told ESPN that he does not have permission to talk to other teams or work on a trade. AB holds the NFL record with 6 straight 100-catch seasons, but he'll turn 31 this summer. So, Skip, given all of the information, would you trade for him?
Jenny, Rob Parker. If I ran an NFL team, I wouldn't take Antonio Brown if you gave him to me for nothing. In fact, I wouldn't take Antonio Brown right now if you gave him to me and said, I'll also give you a 4th-round pick just to take him off my hands.
Stop, Skip. Come
Because
on.
Antonio Brown would arrive on my doorstep with a whole lot of baggage, way too much baggage for me, and he would arrive carrying a $22.2 million cap hit that I would somehow have to wedge under my salary cap because Antonio Brown is now easily the highest paid wide receiver in football. And for the record, I said before they gave him this deal, I'm sorry, I'm not giving him that deal at that point in his career because remember what he had just done. That was soon after what he did up in Kansas City after Pittsburgh had pulled off a really nice win at Chiefs. And what did he do in the locker room, Mr. Parker? Antonio Brown, who's now gone completely over the edge into social media disaster to me, where he's lost all view of who he really is, and he has convinced himself he's one of the biggest stars in the National Football League, which he is not because he doesn't play quarterback. And what did he do after that game, Rob? He went live on Facebook while his head coach was talking in the background privately to the team within the confines of the closed-door locker room. And Mike Tomlin was humiliated, embarrassed because he was taking a shot at that point at the New England Patriots, whom they were about to play in a big playoff game in the AFC Championship game up in Foxborough.
People make mistakes,
Okay,
Skip.
that was
That's
a
all it
big
was.
mistake. So
it's
I'm not
reality
giving that deal.
television.
So because of that and many other incidents, I am now officially done with Antonio Brown, who has become far more trouble than he's worth after 9 NFL seasons, with production starting to wane as he approaches age 31. And look, I've said this many times. We've had Antonio on this show and the other show that I used to do several times. I've been around him a lot. I really enjoy being around him. He just lights up the room, the way he lights up Instagram. That's not the point. The point is that he's now gone over that edge. He's gone full-on Terrell Owens. He has become the T.O. of this age, and we've seen it with Chad Ochocinco and many of the diva wide receivers who finally decide that they're the equivalent of NBA superstars. It's now like Antonio thinks that he's a LeBron, he's a KD, he's a Harden, he's a Russ. And he can't be because he's a football player and he plays the wrong position. Wide receiver is a dependent position, Rob Parker. You know this and I know this. You've watched football long enough to understand you can take that guy out of a football game. In basketball, LeBron can dribble the ball up the floor and he can attack on his own. Nobody really calls the play. He can call his own number and he can take it to the basket. He can get to the free throw line. He can take over the game in and of himself, and Antonio cannot, because if he gets doubled or tripled, then Ben Roethlisberger can go to this receiver or that receiver, and all of a sudden you're out of the game, you're out of the stat category, and you can't live up to your Instagram sort of delusion or illusion that you have created. So what have we seen lately starting 3 years ago? Antonio Brown has reportedly consistently been late to meetings. And what happened before the last regular season game this year when they were still afloat and alive for the playoffs? Antonio Brown refused to practice that week because once again he was feuding with his quarterback. And he showed up at the game on Sunday, but Mike Tomlin, way to go Mike Tomlin, rendered him inactive for the game, and he ended up leaving that game at halftime. And again, at that point, I think it became Juju Smith-Schuster's team. He was voted the team MVP, and trust me, the Steelers will go onward and upward without Antonio Brown as James Washington rises into his future as I think maybe not a star receiver, but a very good one. And dare I mention that Antonio's had several very disturbing and alarming off-the-field incidents, which I will not detail. And now he's gone so over the edge into social media delusion that he has re-nicknamed himself Mr. Big Chest. He says now he should be called Mr. Big Chest. And in his most recent IG post, he says that teams should call him, but don't call me unless you're ready to tear up my contract and give me guaranteed money. Really? Oh, guaranteed money. Rob, I'm going to say good luck with that to Antonio. I'm going to say good luck to any team that would dare even give a third or a fourth round draft pick for him, because he will disrupt, he will distract, he is a lost cause, more trouble than he is worth.
You just laid out a case basically saying he's a Cancer, but I got news for you. He was born in January.
Oh,
he's
so
a
that's,
Capricorn.
He's a Capricorn.
He's
Okay.
not a Cancer.
That may be the only argument you can make in his favor at this point.
But Skip, stop. You know what? I hear about all the off-the-field stuff, and a lot of it isn't good. I'll give you that. But he's the best receiver in football. You can talk about all that. Skip, last year when he's unhappy and butting heads with his quarterback and things aren't going right, guess what he did last year? Jenny, are you ready for this? I got numbers.
Tell me.
Last year, 100 catches, 15 touchdowns in 15 games. You know how many receivers in the history of the National Football League have done that in a single season, Skip? How many? 5 guys. And the other 4, right? You got Jerry Rice, Chris Carter, Marvin Harrison, and Randy Moss. Those are some of the greatest players. And Antonio Brown is the 5th guy. Okay. Some of the greatest players who've ever played. His 6-year span as a receiver is the greatest 6-year span we've ever seen in football. So when you talk about the videotaping and the IG post and all that, I get it. You would rather not if you could. But I'm always about production. There are people who aren't wired the same way, who have that diva effect, who get caught up in the social part of life. Yeah. But it is about, do you produce? And for all the stuff you talked about, Skip, I don't know. I'm waiting. Other than Ben Roethlisberger having an issue with him, I don't hear teammates say, this guy doesn't work hard, he's a dog, he doesn't put in the work, he doesn't do what we need him to do to win. Every time he steps out there, he's one of the best players on the field, if not the best receiver. And you talked about, okay, he's not a quarterback, but hey, Jerry Rice is considered by a lot of people one of the greatest football players ever. Maybe it's LT, maybe it's Jim Brown, maybe it's Jerry Rice, but all I'm saying...
there's no maybe. It's Tom Brady, period.
It's not Tom Brady.
What, is the greatest football player ever?
Yes. No, I would say...
In the all-time draft, would you take Jerry Rice over Tom Brady? I'm sorry, I wouldn't.
Yes, I would. I would take Jerry
Tom
Rice.
Brady you would.
You know I would.
Tom Brady gets to actually call the play, hold the ball, and decide it's going to go there, or there, right?
Or he might throw it to the other team, or he might overthrow Wes Welker. All that stuff could happen, too.
Well, he's got
Here's
6
my
rings.
point.
I don't know how that happened. By accident, he got 6.
My point is, this guy is one of the best players at his position we've ever seen. And he's worth the risk. He's worth the headache, the little bit of headache. And you know what? He'll be looking for redemption. And if you give up a second or third round or whatever pick to get the guy, it would be worth it. Don't tell me in San Francisco they wouldn't salivate to have a guy like this that Jimmy Garoppolo could throw to. Yes, they would. And there are other teams.
For $22 million a year.
You know what? You have to pay for talent, Skip, in this league. That's what happens. He's worth it, and Pittsburgh will not be as good. They're going to lose Le'Veon Bell and AB, and you tell me this team is going to be in the hunt for anything. They're basically, with the loss of these two players,
they will
turn over the division to the Cleveland Browns overnight. Absolutely.
Well, that might happen just because of Baker Mayfield.
No, it's not because
Another
of Baker.
Quarterback who can
that has
control
nothing
the game.
to do with Baker. It has about losing this kind of talent. So I'm willing to look. People have issues. People deserve second chances. He has not been that bad to the point where you say they've let people have done worse things in the National Football League. And you mentioned T.O. earlier. T.O., the Hall of Fame wide receiver. Yes, that guy. A.B. will be a Hall of Fame wide receiver as well.
I like Terrell personally. He wouldn't be in my Hall of Fame, but that's a whole nother issue.
He's in everybody else's Hall of Fame.
Well, he's in the Hall of Fame. I got to give you that. It took a while, but he got in.
It doesn't matter. Is he in? Either you're in or you're out.
Okay.
So I think when you come to AB, your off the field stuff is it doesn't outweigh what he's done on the football field.
So I'm glad you told your stats to Jenny because I wasn't really listening to your stats.
You weren't trying to hear them?
Because I have counters to every stat you just
No,
threw
you
out
don't.
on the table.
Give me the best 6-year span of any receiver in the history of the league. Let me hear you respond to that.
You know, I can still see the marionette strings attached to you just the way they're attached to Shannon because I think Steve, the researcher, Steve Owens, was trying to set you up and feed you, and he did a good job.
Just research. He's doing his homework.
Pulling the right
You
strings.
see, these are my
Those
notes.
are notes.
These
Those
are
are
my
handwriting.
notes.
I have
just
no
wrote
idea what is on
I
there.
wrote myself a prescription. That's what that is.
Really?
Can't read your writing.
So, my notes are these. In productivity last year among wide receivers, relating to how much each receiver is paid, Antonio Brown ranked 21st. That's how much bang for your buck you got. He ranked 21st. His catch rate.
What does that mean, Skip?
Okay. That's how much is your production for how much you're paid?
100
21st.
catches and 15 yards, and you're talking about the cost of
Okay.
it?
How about his catch rate, which is how many balls do you catch of how many targets thrown to you, right?
Okay.
And his catch rate has dropped each of the last 5 years. Now, I will give you this. That's in part because he got better and better, and he got doubled or tripled or whatever it was.
At least
more
you
and
could
more.
acknowledge.
Well, I will give you that.
Even Schuster's breakout year has a lot to do with him being out on the field. Let's just be
100%,
honest.
yes.
But in catch rate last year among all receivers, he ranked 139. So he got thrown a whole bunch of balls in his direction he did not catch. For whatever reasons, he did not catch them. So he didn't have a great impact on the scoreboard because he wasn't catching a high enough percentage of the passes thrown his direction. And Pro Football Focus, I have a lot of respect for it, they ranked Antonio's season last year as the 27th best wide receiver season. That's his whole production for the season, ranked 27th. So I'm sorry, I just punctured a lot of those numbers.
You didn't puncture it because it's about score.
And by
it's
the
about
way,
points in the NFL. You could talk about targets and all that. I want a receiver who can get me 15 touchdowns in 15 games. Skip, name me somebody else who got me 15. He led the league in touchdowns. Can you give me another guy?
They're the flying circus. They throw it. It seems like 3 out of 4 downs, they're throwing the football, right?
But that doesn't mean he's going to catch it in the end zone and secure it for a score. It's about points. It ain't about, you don't even know. Are some of those passes, did they bounce from Big Ben? Were they over his head? They might have been targets, but does that mean because he didn't catch it, it was 100% on him for not catching the ball?
So Antonio, considered for years maybe the best deep threat in pro football, last year was 36th on deep ball catches, 36th. Not great. Production's starting to decline because he's going on 31 years of age after 9 seasons. And he's a little guy who does take a lot of shots. So, big picture, Did they make the playoffs last year?
No, they did not.
Did he lead them to the playoffs? No, it didn't.
No, but they also didn't have Le'Veon Bell. And if you remember, Skip, they were 6-2, and they faltered at the end.
James Conner was pretty good.
He was okay, but he's not Le'Veon Bell.
I thought he was better than okay.
You think he's equal talent to Le'Veon Bell? Le'Veon does more than run the football. He can catch the football as well from the backfield.
I think he's a reasonable facsimile. I think the team liked him. I think the team thrived on him.
If they had Le'Veon last year for the entire season, they make the playoffs. There's no way that they would start 6-2 and not make the playoffs with Le'Veon Bell.
With another me guy instead of a we guy. That's the problem. Antonio went completely over the edge into me. It's all about, did I get 10 catches today, or did Ben throw me enough? Because he's going to throw the Gatorade cooler on the field if he thinks Ben is looking the other way.
He was
towards
trying to water the grass. It had nothing to do with.
So he's the groundskeeper. On top of that, I guess that's part of the $22.2 million. He gets the groundskeeper's fee. I don't know. So how many Super Bowls did Antonio carry the Steelers to? None. As far as he did play in one, he was a young receiver at that point. He caught one ball for 1 yard. If you recall that they lost to, who's that guy up in?
Is that Green Bay?
That Green Bay guy? I forget it. It was so long ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago.
It was in the dark ages. It was back in the prehistoric times in the NFL when they didn't wear face masks yet. So Aaron Rodgers actually won a Super Bowl, and Antonio was on the field briefly and caught one ball for 1 yard. So
are you blaming that they don't have a Super Bowl? You just told me the NFL was about quarterback.
Okay, I agree.
So is that a reflection of Big Ben, or is it about Antonio Brown?
It's all about Big Ben, because Antonio is just a sideshow to in the end. The final result is going to be hinged upon the play of the quarterback and of the defense. You have to have a credible defense, and I've been disappointed in Mike Tomlin. I'm a big fan. I do think because he's such a player's coach that he let the players take over the locker room, and he needs to regain some control of that. And that might start and end with Antonio Brown, which I think is why they'll be better off without him in the locker room.
Skip, do they make the playoffs next year without Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell?
Yes.
I'm willing to bet you whatever you want right now. They won't make the playoffs.
Not again.
Yeah, again.
Seriously?
I can't believe you will really believe that they're going to make the playoffs.
I like them to make the playoffs, actually. So I'll do that. What do we got now? Another dinner?
Whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Want to do Dew?
Yeah.
We could do.
You don't drink Dew.
No, I'll drink. You got to send me Diet Coke.
Neither does Shannon Sharpe, but it doesn't matter whether he drinks Diet Dew because he's down 32 cases net cases over 2.5 years.
32 cases?
I
Yeah, 32
thought you
cases.
guys made even.
Well, I know he clears the bet every once in a while. I'm just telling you 32 net cases.
It's a lot. It's a lot to do.
So you're down probably like 30 net dinners.
No, 2 dinners.
No, but I know. No, I'm just talking about over time.
No, we got those. We left those at the other network.
Okay.
Those don't count.
Fair enough.
You paid them off one night. I let you pay it. You got to do that loan consolidation like Shannon does.
It was a big dinner, so Skip let me put them all.
Okay, so another dinner will be bet right now on Steelers making the playoffs next year because obviously a division can have 2 playoff teams, right? So I think
so
the Browns
winning the division?
No, I don't have them winning. I think they're going to make the playoffs next year.
Okay, I think without AB, there will be no playoffs again for the Steelers.
Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington. Then you got the 2 tight ends. I think they'll be just fine.
Have some rising stars.
Just fine. Yep. Good offensive line.
Long time to look forward to before we get to playoffs. We're already making bets about it.
Already? Well, because I just can't believe you could give up 2 players of that caliber and Skip think that the same thing is going to happen.
Well,
especially since they didn't make the playoffs this past year, Jenny.
I know.
So he's telling me they're not going to have AB and they're going to make the playoffs, even though they had AB last year for 15 of the 16 games and didn't make the playoffs. Is that logical?
It's addition by subtraction. Clear the decks, clean out the locker room, no more distractions. Everybody will be a little bit more unified, and let's start fresh and start over.
Skip, if you were putting together a men's choir, maybe I would buy that you want this guy to be a certain way. But we're talking about football. It's about football. And you know what? Everybody's not going to be the same. People march to a different beat. And sometimes you have to make exceptions for that. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that they're a little bit different. And in this case, he is different. I agree to social media stuff. He's not a bad guy. You like him.
I like him. He has had a couple of incidents that give me some
concern.
pause,
hear
you know,
that.
and I don't know the outcome of those incidents, and I don't want to get into the details because it's still too shadowy to me exactly what happened. But I am concerned enough about that and about all of his extracurricular just his reactions on social media that I don't want him in my locker room.
It's the risk
Sorry.
reward with AB. We'll have to see where he ends up, and I'm sure he will be talking us through it on social media.
Skip, you want to
daily.
You want to quit right now? You're done for the day? Are you
That's it? You're feeling good about the start?
I'm feeling good
Really?
about the start. Are you all right?
You know what? I haven't even warmed up yet, actually.
We've got a lot more to get to, and we're going to switch gears to Zion
let's do
Williamson. Will he become an NBA superstar? We'll discuss that next.
No mercy.
Hey guys, Jenny Taft here with a quick word from Simply Safe. Here's something interesting. Studies show that security systems deter burglars. It's a fact, but there's still a burglary every 8 seconds in America. How? Well, think about it. Do burglars give up just because some houses have security systems? Of course not. They just find a house that isn't protected. That's why securing your home is truly a necessity. So let me recommend this brilliant security system built by my friends at Simply Safe. Simply Safe believes fear has no place in a place like home, so they made their system ridiculously smart. Simply Safe sensors will protect every point of access to your home: doors, windows, garage, you name it. If a burglar even tries to break in, an ear-shattering siren will let them know the police are already on the way. Best of all, Simply Safe's 24/7 monitoring is just $14.99 a month. And they'll never lock you in a long-term contract. More than 3 million people already know it feels good to fear less with Simply Safe. So go with the only home security I trust, Simply Safe, by going to simplysafe.com/undisputed today. That's simplysafe.com/undisputed for the home security I trust. simplysafe.com/undisputed. Now, back to the show.
No mercy.
Zion Williamson is the talk of college basketball, and he'll be a big focus tonight against Duke's biggest rival, North Carolina. Zion is averaging about 22 points, 9 rebounds per game, and he's a huge favorite to be the #1 pick in the NBA draft. Roy Williams said earlier this week that Zion has, quote, a combination of skills that I've never seen before. And we're now joined in New York by FS1 NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Good morning, Chris. When you look at what you're seeing from Zion, will he become a superstar in the NBA?
Zion, look, I've heard him compared to LeBron James. I think that's far too high of a ceiling or praise to give him. LeBron, you're talking about a top 5 player of all time. I don't think Zion becomes that. But I think he's like a new age Charles Barkley. He's Charles Barkley with the skills that you need to translate to today's NBA game. Skip, I think this kid has the tangibles, obviously athletically, and the intangibles to be a great player. I think he'll be a superstar and a franchise-changing player. First of all, let's go at his tangibles. Obviously, he's got the athleticism. He rebounds the basketball. He handles it pretty well. He passes pretty well. And in today's NBA, because the floor is so spread out, it's easier than ever to get into the paint. So I think he'll be able to get into the paint, and with his strength, his build, and his athleticism, I think he'll be able to finish over bigger players, even though he's only probably 6'6" tall. So I think he'll be fine in that regard. And then you look at his shot, which is the one criticism a lot of people would have of him. His shot isn't broken. I'm not saying he's a great outside shooter, but you look at his form, you look at his percentage, which is okay. He actually can shoot the ball fairly well. And when you look in the NBA today, Blake Griffin, even going back, a Jason Kidd, they developed into good three-point shooters. And if they can do it with shots that were far worse than Zion Williamson at this point, I'm convinced he'll be able to do it. That leads me to the intangibles. He's a hard worker. He plays defense. At this stage of most guys' careers, even LeBron didn't play defense early in his NBA career or in high school. So Zion has that. He hustles. He dives for the ball. Like, he's not one of these prima donnas that's just, playing, resting on his laurels and not hustling because he's such a great player, a great talent, and a guy that's going to go 1 or 2 in the NBA draft. So I think that combination of tangibles and those intangibles will lead him to work on his deficiencies, his jump shot. I'm convinced, Skip, that this guy not only will be the number 1 pick, because I've yet to talk to an NBA executive who's told me he won't be the number 1 pick, but I think he'll become a franchise-changing player. But I'm not putting him on LeBron's level, but he'll be a superstar.
So, Chris, here's my issue. I can't be completely sold on Zion Williamson being a dominating NBA player, being in that category of a LeBron or a KD or even a Harden or a Russ, even though obviously he plays a different position. The guy who will carry a franchise to multiple championships, in part because I haven't seen enough yet. And I'm going to warn you that this draft from top to bottom doesn't look very strong to me. It's strong at the very top, so it's top heavy, but top to bottom, all the way through the second round, I think this is a mediocre year at best in college basketball. So I'm going to warn everybody out there that obviously the second pick in the draft plays alongside Zion right now, R.J. Barrett at Duke. So does that help Zion? Does that mislead you a little bit? Because R.J. Barrett's really good. He's a slasher. He's got more of a scorer's mentality than Zion does. He's slightly above Zion in scoring average. He's taken a bunch more. I think he's taken 143 more shots than Zion has. Yeah. And he's leading the ACC in scoring, obviously. And not to mention that maybe the 4th or 5th pick in this draft plays for Duke in Cam Reddish, who hit a big shot to win the game at Florida State, a big 3. So he's turned into their closing clutch shooter. Not to mention that the best point guard in all of college basketball, to my eye, I'm just going on my eye test, plays for Duke. It's Trey Jones. So he is the guy setting up both those guys in the post, in the paint. And are we being slightly misled by that? Maybe so. So I'm here to say I'm already a little more sold on Kyler Murray being a star quarterback than I am on Zion at this point being a dominating NBA superstar, because I got to see Kyler in the Big 12 championship game against Texas at Jerry World. I got to see Kyler against Alabama in the national semifinal in the Orange Bowl. I saw it, and I bought it, and I believe in it, and I trust it. But I'm going to withhold a little bit today because I need to see a little bit more of Zion. Maybe, again, this is at Duke tonight. Carolina's at Duke, but they're going to play at Carolina on March the 9th. I'd like to see that game, see what happens. I'd like to see the ACC tourney. I'd like to see the NCAAs, especially the Final Four. If, in fact, Duke gets that far, I want to see the semifinal, and I want to see Zion in the final take over games. And I know this is a small sample size, but I've watched a lot of Duke this year. They did lose in the Maui Classic. This is way back in December. They lost to Gonzaga. Gonzaga's pretty good, but that was a weird game to me because it was a very close game late. And Zion did hit a big jumper, like a little mid-range soft jump shot, and he's as sensational a combination of power and touch as I've ever seen in college basketball so far, from what I've seen. Again, as far as power leaping goes, quick leaping, I've never seen anything like the combination of tonnage and lift that this kid has. And he's such a quick jumper, but he did make a little jump shot, and that tied the score. And then over the last minute, Zion didn't touch the basketball, and RJ just took the game over, but he didn't close the game because he took 5 shots in the last minute and missed all 5 of them. So RJ's got that dog in him. He's that killer. He's got that makeup. Just give me the ball and get out of my way. Zion's a sweet kid. He's a good kid. He's a great interview. He's great with the media. The stage is never too big for him. He never seems to feel any real pressure because he's got the LeBron syndrome going. Since he was 14, everybody saw him coming as the next it kid. And so he knows what that feels like. And Yet, I don't know if that sweet personality translates in the NBA into that cold-blooded assassin. Is he that guy? I haven't seen that guy yet. I see all the tangibles. I'm not sure about the intangibles. And Chris, I'm not completely sold. Remember, we got tweener height going on. I'm pretty sure he won't measure above 6'6". So, again,
right, I'd agree.
Will the leaping take over that? Will it eclipse his height? Will it render it obsolete? It's sort of like Kyler Murray. He is so quick and so fast that 5'9" doesn't matter anymore because he can buy time. He can create throwing lanes. Well, can Zion overcome 6'6" in the NBA just because of his power leaping? Maybe, because Charles Barkley did in certain ways and could throw his weight around and create space under the basket. I'll give you all that. And Zion's about 285 maybe. So will he have a weight problem in the NBA? It seems like he's keeping his weight pretty much under control at Duke. Will the tonnage start to wear on his body? Because he is going way up and coming way down with 285 pounds worth of contact, on the floor, not to mention body contact. So I don't know how he's if he'll wear well in the NBA, how his durability will be. I like everything I see, but I haven't seen enough, and it leads me to my last point, which is the shot. It's okay, but it's not great. He's tried some threes. He's kind of backed off the threes, but he's taken he's made 14 this year out of 48. That's 29%. Can that get a little better? He doesn't have to shoot threes because Giannis doesn't shoot a lot of threes, obviously. But he probably at 6'6" needs to create a little more of a jump shot. Can he teach himself that the way Magic and Michael taught themselves to shoot? Maybe. But I haven't seen quite enough. And I'm still fearful that we're all getting a little too swept up in what works on social media, and that is highlights.
Yep.
Dunks, sensational dunks. If he enters the dunk contest next year, the NBA dunk contest, the All-Star weekend dunk contest, nobody else should enter because he's just going to win it going away. We should just watch him do 3 or 4 dunks and call it a night because he will immediately be the most sensational dunker in the league. Does all that add up to KD, LeBron? I don't see that yet. I'm withholding that. I think we're all getting a little swept up in highlights as opposed to scoreboard. And again, he's playing on by far the best team right now, which could camouflage some of the weaknesses. So I'm waiting and seeing on this one, and I'm looking forward to tonight. This will be an interesting test.
It'll be interesting. You brought up KD, LeBron. Like, he's getting so much hype.
He is.
Like, usually, even the great young players, they get a 4-year honeymoon period or so where as long as they establish themselves individually, they put up great numbers, they look like an all-star, they maybe make it a couple all-star teams early on and establish themselves as a superstar. That's all we want. We're not really looking at wins. LeBron didn't make the playoffs his first 2 years. Nobody held it against him. A few years ago, Karl Anthony Towns everybody loved him. Now, finally, you're starting to say, okay, is he going to start winning?
Yep.
So I don't know if Zion with the extra hype, people will start saying he's got to win immediately. I don't see that. I don't see him going to Cleveland or New York if nobody else goes there and immediately making them a great team or a very good team. I don't think he's going to win in that situation right away, but I do think he'll establish himself individually as a great player.
Well, Chris, you bring up the hype, and you know how much tickets are going for? Today, check this morning, $3,600 to get in the door tonight. President Obama might be there.
Oh, good, but there aren't many seats to be had in that little arena.
Yeah, those are Super Bowl prices. The hype is real for this guy. All right, Chris, thanks. Much more Undisputed coming up after the break.
No mercy.
Dak Prescott has helped lead the Cowboys to 2 playoff appearances in his first 3 seasons, but he's entering the final year of his contract. The Athletic says Dak's upcoming contract talks are the, quote, largest contract contract quandary in Cowboys history. They say Dak could play this year under his current deal, then be franchise tagged for over $27 million the following year to see if he's worthy of a deal that could reach $200 million. Rob Parker is back with us. So, Rob, would you give Dak the big contract?
Skip, this is pretty easy for me.
Yeah.
No way, no how, not now.
You added it.
You added that? You like that? For Dak. No way, no how, not now. And my problem is, I need to see more. That's all. Just show me more. I thought he was going to take a next step level, right, this year. Got Ezekiel back. That wasn't like year 2 Skip with the suspension and your, makeshift in the team and trying to make it all work. But no, it didn't happen. Yes, they won the division. They got a break in the NFC East. I'm just trying to say, I'm not going to.
No big deal.
I'm not going to ignore it.
They won a playoff game. No big deal. Forget about that because that's irrelevant. Go ahead.
That's not what I'm saying. But when you take a look at him, I just still have question marks. Is it Dak? For him to win, you need everything to go right. I mean, you got to have the defense has to be good. Ezekiel Elliott has to rush for 100 yards. His numbers, Skip, especially throwing down the field, aren't great. Let me give you some numbers. You ready? This is for you. As far as quarterbacks throwing under 200 yards in a game, he's done it 17 times in his career, tied for third. I'm talking about since he's been in the league. The same as Blake Bortles. Wow. Blake Bortles, let me see. He got cashed out, 3 years, $54 million. That's about right. And this year, for all the praise, and they won the division, and Dak was so great, they got shut out by the Colts. You remember that this year, Skip? First time the Cowboys got shut out in 15 years.
Wasn't his fault. Go ahead.
And it's not the quarterback's fault when you don't score any points?
He played really well in the first half.
So did he play well in the second half, too? I'm just saying, I'm just giving you these things. Here's the bigger one that I would be afraid of if I'm a Cowboys fan. He can't win you a game on his own. And I'm talking about when Ezekiel Elliott has under 75 yards. Jenny, you ready for this?
What?
Don't tell Jenny,
Cowboys,
tell me.
Listen, because you don't want to hear the numbers. I'm making sure
I'm
Jenny.
interested.
Because she's an objective observer. You don't want to hear the numbers I have.
Very objective.
They're 0-6, including the playoffs, 0-7. Okay. So they don't win any games when he doesn't rush for over 75 yards. He doesn't have to have 100 yards or 200 yards. 75 yards. And I look at the other one, Skip, you're so big on is QBR, right? That's the Bible for
Loves
you.
It.
QBR, you're always ripping on Aaron Rodgers. QBR is what it is. Dak Prescott was third his rookie year in the league.
First
he was
the whole year until
right?
the last game, and they mailed it in. Go ahead.
Okay,
he should have won. Go ahead.
But he was third.
Yeah.
Okay? Last year, 17th QBR.
Okay, well, you skipped the middle year when he was fourth.
No, I'm going.
So he went third, fourth,
So
17th.
he's going, he's dropping like a rock.
So he's
is
average
the point.
finishing eighth in
No,
QBR.
that's not
is
what
that
we're
a
talking
top
about.
10 quarterback?
That's not how we do it. We'd go on where he is, just like if he would have started 17th.
Okay, tell me when it's my turn.
It's not your turn yet. You're going to take more of this medicine, and you're going to like it. He's no better than a Mark Sanchez when you look at quarterbacks. And I'll make the case that Mark Sanchez is actually, it's the same kind of thing when you look at Mark Sanchez's career. He had a great defense with that Jets team with Rex Ryan. Remember that, Skip? They ran the football really well, had a great defense. Do you remember that year, 2010? Sanchez, first of all, has 4 playoff wins under his belt in his career. And in 2010, he beat Peyton Manning and Tom Brady on the road, en route to the AFC Championship.
He did.
And my only point is, a lot of guys can do what Dak Prescott has done. He's not special. He's not a guy that can win a game when you're in a tight spot and your running game's not running, just like we saw in the playoffs against Dallas. When Dak was bottled up, Ezekiel was bottled up and couldn't get any yards, that game was over. And don't let the score fool you. It wasn't as close as it was. I'm telling you, he's not that special. I need to see more before I back up the Brink truck for Dak Prescott.
You know what's sad about everything you said? I
That is
believe
true?
the majority of those watching this show right now are with you on all that you just said, thanks to Steve Owens, your researcher.
No, wait a minute. Time out.
Yeah.
Steve's
Why
getting
do you
love
keep
today.
bringing up Steve Owens?
Yeah,
okay.
he's just doing
Steve
his
is doing
job.
his job. You
He's doing
think
his
that
job.
I don't have any knowledge?
Yeah, you're just
This is
getting some-
unbelievable.
I
This is
didn't
all
say that.
I see. This is your
This
handwriting.
is my handwriting.
Let's give Rob some credit here.
Sad but true that most people are on your side with this. And that's why in this block, we are about to deal with the two phenomena in sports that most astound and confound me. And that is, number one, Dak hate, and number two, Brady hate. And we're about to talk about Brady hate. And again, if you hate either, and again,
Hate's a strong word.
Hate's
Would
a
you
strong
say
word,
that?
but with Dak, it's more hate his performance or lack thereof in most people's eyes, because he doesn't measure up to what some people see as the franchise quarterback as far as throwing the football, right?
Okay.
And Brady hates a whole nother phenomenon, I should say, singular, that we'll discuss in just a second. Although, to me, Dak Prescott is Brady-esque in the way he operates, because Tom Brady doesn't always put up big numbers. He just wins games, which brings me to why I would right here, right now, if I were Jerry Jones tomorrow, in fact, I hope he's negotiating as we speak, I would go ahead and give Dak Prescott 5 years, and I'll just throw out $100 million, and I would guarantee every last nickel of it, because he has earned it. He has earned my trust, my belief. I am 1,000% sold on Dak Prescott as the face of the franchise, leader of the Dallas Cowboys, who could win. He's capable of taking them and winning multiple Super Bowls. Brady-esque. Let's start with his health. You realize he's been 1,000, I better knock on wood, he's 1,000% healthy through all 3 years, hasn't missed a game, and he's only 25 years of age. And Rob Parker, would you believe that over his first 3 years, he set the all-time passing completion percentage record for the first 3 years in the league? Nobody, no quarterback, not Joe Montana, not Tom Brady, not Peyton Manning, not Dan Marino, completed a higher percentage of passes in his first 3 years than Dak just did. 66.3% was his completion rate.
Is that passes of 3 yards or less? Is that what it is?
Is it accuracy, deadly accuracy?
Is it that, or they had him on a string skip?
Okay.
You know the offensive coordinator, they wouldn't even let him throw the ball down the field.
So in
they guarded
that
him.
is so wrong. It's my turn right
Okay.
now. So also his 32 wins, Dak's 32 wins over the first 3 years, second only to Tom Brady. Is that pretty good company to be in? I would say that's pretty good. Dak Prescott now has over 3 years, 14 game-winning drives. Guess what, boys and girls? That leads the National Football League. No quarterback over the last 3 years, not Aaron Rodgers, not Andrew Luck, not whoever else you like, nobody has had more than 14 game-winning drives. Dak Prescott's.
That's because their teams were ahead. They didn't have to come from behind because their quarterback scored points early.
Okay. And once, about midseason, that Jerry Jones, thank you, God bless you, Jerry Jones, went out and finally acquired a bona fide, number one, genuine, primary target wide receiver in Amari Cooper, all of a sudden Dak Prescott started to look better and really good, because against Philadelphia with the division at stake, this was for the NFC East at Jerry World, Dak Prescott in the fourth quarter and overtime of that game threw for 243 yards. He went 17 of 20, 3 touchdowns, and pulled them back into the game and overcame Carson Wentz. All I hear on this show from Shannon Sharpe is Carson Wentz is the best quarterback in the NFC East. And I believe that Dak Prescott proved this year he's the best quarterback in the NFC East. And if we can talk about intangibles, about leadership, you actually dared to taint Dak Prescott by putting him in the same sentence with Mark Sanchez?
Mark Sanchez has 4 road playoff wins, Skip.
Mark Sanchez
Call me
has,
when Dak gets 4.
Yeah, hey, Mark Sanchez, call me when Dak has a defense like that Rex Ryan defense with, remember, Darrelle Revis in that group?
Did he not beat Brady and Peyton Manning? Do you remember that?
You know, Mark Sanchez has low to no what I call football backbone. You know this, and I know this. low intangibles, not the face of the franchise, can't be trusted under the highest pressure because in those games he's mostly handing off and relying on the defense. He is game managing. Dak does not game manage. And if they let Kellen Moore call the plays next year, you'll finally see Dak unleashed as the runner he can be because the playmaker on this team is not Ezekiel Elliott. The playmaker, both throwing it and running it, is actually the quarterback because the quarterback will take over games with his legs. He closed the deal against Seattle because they were in a dark place. It was 3rd and 14, and they were only up 3 points with 2:33 left in the Seattle playoff game at Jerry World. And I don't know if we have that handy, but I would love to see this run again because they called the basic quarterback draw, and finally Linehan made a good call.
Setup.
Yeah, up. Jenny. No, you missed, and look at that. You want to talk about athletic? This man weighs 245 pounds, and
that was a bad play defensively. How do you let a guy rush for that many yards in that situation?
You know, I see that play in my dreams sometimes because I want to see more of that play in my dreams.
Jenny, you know what? Skip says that. You know what I see in my dreams? The day on Instagram you went and you threw your Dak Prescott jersey in the garbage.
I threw my hat in the garbage.
And your Dak Prescott jersey, which told me all I needed to know.
And what happened?
Was there $100 million in the garbage can too?
But what got far more likes on Instagram was when 2 weeks later I went and retrieved it out of the garbage. And then there was another point where I did another video where I actually ran into the kitchen and I was ready to throw it in the garbage, but I heard, it's the Philly game. And I heard, he's doing that. I'm going to run back because I am a crazed fan. I'm completely psycho. My wife will, you know Ernestine very well. She will be the first to tell you I'm out of my mind while they are playing. I'm knee-jerk, over-emotional, over-reactionary. But when I step back and cool down and look at the big picture of Dak Prescott, I am completely sold on Dak Prescott because all he did from that point, that team hit bottom that Monday night. I didn't see it coming. Tennessee visited Jerry World, and it was the all-time Dallas Cowboy disaster.
And one of the all-time Cowboys came out.
Marcus Mariota went 11 of 14 on 3rd down that night.
Do you remember Troy Aikman after that said this whole thing needs to be blown up?
Yeah, he said that. He did. He said it was, I think, basically dysfunctional. And yet, I think a lot of people were saying it was dysfunctional at that point, including me. And yet, Dak Prescott pulled it all back together. And remember, Amari had just arrived that week before that night. And they went to Philly the next week, Rob, and what happened? Dak Prescott took over that game. Dak Prescott led them to yet another division title, so he's won 2 of 3 years he's won the division title. That's pretty good, wouldn't you say? And all he did against Aaron Rodgers was throw for 300 yards in that playoff game and 3 touchdowns.
Did they win that game?
No, but that was because of Mason Crossbar, who you blame him for losing the games this year, and I credit him with pulling that game out with a 56-yard field goal and a 51-yard field goal, neither of which seemed to have any shot at going over the crossbar. But they both did, and I don't know how they did. But the point is that Dak Prescott has played Aaron Rodgers 3 times. Go look up the numbers. Ask Steve Owens in the break to go look up these numbers because
I can look them up myself.
Okay, look at what he did to Aaron Rodgers all 3 times. He outplayed him. Head to head, he outplayed the best thrower of the football ever. Just check it out. I'm sold. He's earned his money. I will be very content. I will never again throw away my Dak Prescott jersey.
At least he admits, though, Rob, that he's a little bit crazy when it comes to
He is crazy. I've
He
seen
admits
the
it,
Instagram
you know?
post.
You've seen it. We've all seen the Instagram.
No mercy.
Some Tom Brady hate, because on the outside, and Rob, you keep reminding us that people don't buy it, but we keep hearing how much Brady is loved on the inside. And now here's an example from offensive lineman Trent Brown, who just finished his first season with Brady, and he gave his quarterback high praise on Adam Schefter's podcast, saying Brady is, quote, one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. And that's no BS by any stretch of the imagination. Rob, we feel the Brady hate coming from this way. Does this change your mind at all?
Not at all. Gee whiz, aw shucks, that Tom Brady. Dude, what is he supposed to say? Trent Brown's looking for a job. What is he supposed to say, Skip? He's going
Well,
to
at
really.
least he's not a Patriot anymore.
Well,
right?
but I'm just saying, he's looking for a job. He's going to rip Tom Brady after they won the Super Bowl?
He could.
No, he wouldn't do it.
He could say, I want to expose Tom Brady. He's a fraud. No one's ever said that.
After he gets a job, maybe, or a new contract that's completely guaranteed. And I don't expect him to say that. Winning is the ultimate makeup in sports, right? When you win, it covers up everything. Nobody cares about what kind of guy you are and all that if you can win. So I never expect anybody to come out and just rip Tom Brady just for the sake of it. He's won too much, been involved, been lucky his whole career. A lot of things have gone his way. So why in the world would you have anything bad to say about Tom Brady? That doesn't mean he's perfect or a choir boy. I get it. But this is supposed to convince me because a guy comes and plays 1 year with Tom Brady and is out of work? What is he supposed to say? I'm not expecting anything else. Tom Brady, he is who we know he is, Skip.
Which is what?
Which is oftentimes not convincing.
Like insincere, like not genuine?
Not genuine.
Like fake fraud? Is that what you're going?
Fraud might be a strong word, but
because
not.
Why? Oh, Jolly Whiz, that the guy you don't like him?
Yes, because we've seen moments where Tom Brady acts as if he doesn't know what's going on. It's all about football. And don't you remember, even with the kneeling, Skip, when he had claimed that he didn't know what was going on? Do you remember that, Skip? Would you call that genuine? It's a league epidemic was going on, and Tom Brady looked straight in the camera and went, what's going on? I don't know anything that's happening. When they asked Tom Brady, Peter Alexander from NBC News asked him point blank, is Tom Brady a cheater? He went, I don't think so. Is that genuine?
Yeah.
No, it's not. Tom Brady could have said, no, I'm not a cheater. Yes, I asked the ball boys to let the air out of the ball. So when I see those kind of things, I got to question whether or not the guy is totally 100% or all the way up front. I'm not convinced of that. And does he treat his teammates well? Why shouldn't he? He just won a Super Bowl where he didn't throw a touchdown. I'd be psyched. I'd be all about my teammates. They just gave him a parting gift, a gift-wrapped Super Bowl where Tom Brady had no touchdowns, 1 interception, and a fumble. Do you remember that, Skip?
Who made the throw of the game?
Wait a minute.
The signature play of the game.
Was
what
that
was
it? No,
what was it?
No, it was Gronk.
What broke the game open?
Gronk made a great throw on a great catch on an inaccurate throw.
Oh, really? Hit him right there? I don't know. Maybe I saw a different game.
If Brady would have thrown the ball on the money, Gronk could have gotten to the end zone without having to dive for it. No?
I saw him drop it right down the chimney between 3 defenders who were closing on the ball. It was one of the greatest throws I've ever seen in a Super Bowl game.
Skip, you have to admit that there's some phoniness to Tom Brady. Just admit there's some.
I will admit there is zero phoniness to Tom Brady. And the reason I can say that with 1,000% conviction is at ESPN, I worked with a whole bunch of ex-Brady teammates. And trust me on this, from the bottom of my heart, I never heard one of them say one negative thing off the record or even off camera about Tom Brady. We have James Harrison as a contributor here on Undisputed. James Harrison is as tough and real a human as I have ever encountered in all my years in this business or in covering sports. He is 1,000% keep it real. And he readily admitted this year on Undisputed that last year when he got signed by New England late in the year, he went into that locker room with his BS detector on high because he was looking for fraud. He was looking for phony. And he said 2 weeks in, he finally walked up to Brady, who was getting his ankles taped, and he said, hey, I just want you to know, and I'm paraphrasing how James said it, but he said to Tom, I got to give it up to you because you're completely real. Because that's who he is. He is aw shucks, gee whiz. And he's not going to take stances publicly on big social justice issues.
You don't have to take stances, Skip. You have to acknowledge it that something's going on in your league. Can you at least give me that?
Did Michael Jordan ever acknowledge anything?
Michael Jordan was ripped for that too during his career. Yes or not? Yes or no?
Tom Brady just wants to win Super Bowls. He doesn't care about making statements.
I'm not asking him to make a stance. I'm asking him for acknowledging what's going on in front of him. That's all.
Okay, so if you listen to his teammates at the Super Bowl, because they all get interviewed, the 53rd guy on the roster is always saying, they've all got stories. The 51st, second, and third guy have stories about how the first day they got called up from the practice squad, that Tom Brady walked over to them in the locker room and said, "Hi, I'm Tom Brady." And their reaction is always, as if I didn't know you were Tom Brady, right? And that Tom Brady treated them like an equal. And I think it comes straight from his heart. And I believe he is the greatest leader in the history of sports because he's kept that team together through all kinds of friction with his head coach, who I think is jealous of him and resentful of him and tried to get rid of him a year and a half ago at the trade deadline. And to be able to unify that locker room and keep everybody focused on one goal and one goal only, and that's to go win yet another championship, that makes him the greatest leader. And he's obviously the greatest clutch player in the history of sports because he's had so many chances. Now he's won 6 rings with 6 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter overtime. That's preposterously great.
He won 2 Super Bowls and threw 1 touchdown in 2 of those Super Bowls.
All right, but he did it, Rob, against really good defenses at the highest level under the most pressure. He just keeps on doing it again and again. At 41, he just went out and beat Wade Phillips in a loaded defense with a lot of firepower coming off the edges and at cornerback. That was a loaded defense, and Wade Phillips is so really good.
They gave the MVP to a wide receiver who didn't even score a touchdown in the game.
So
that's
how
great Brady was in
that
game.
How did Tom Brady crack the code on Wade Phillips' defense?
One touchdown is cracking the code? Is that it?
Think who he's throwing to. Broken down Gronkowski, Julian Edelman coming off complete knee reconstruction at age 32, and Chris Hogan, who's now, 33
Skip,
years old?
you act like Chris Hogan was working at 7-Eleven the night before the Super Bowl.
Guess who the 4th receiver in the Super Bowl was, who got split out wide in that last code-cracking drive? Rex Burkhead. So Tom Brady is throwing to 4 white guys, 2 of them almost over the hill, right? Am I right?
Oh, white guys can't play football since when?
That's what I was here. Not at wide receivers. So those are your 4 white. Who would do that? Tom Brady went into these playoffs with the worst receiving core of all the playoff teams. Wouldn't you agree with that? Sure they did. Who wouldn't agree with that? And he pulled it off again. Leadership, clutch playmaking. That's how he did it. The throws he made in overtime at Kansas City were spectacularly special. I'm honored just to watch him, and I don't even know him. I've never met him. I don't care. But there's something deeper. And again, I'm going to give you credit for this because I think you're in the vast majority on this, in part because people are just sick and tired of Tom Brady, and I completely get that. But there's something deeper, and I think it went back to September of 2015 when the media noted that Tom Brady had a Make America Great Again hat in his locker. That was, a year and a month before the election, right? And once that man got elected, Tom Brady began to distance himself from that man to the point that after they won the Super Bowl against Atlanta, he wouldn't go to the White House. And President Trump was reportedly outraged over this and tried to make it right, tried to figure out why is this? Why is he distancing himself from me? Mm-hmm. Well, now, the owner of this football team readily publicly admits he just might be Donald Trump's closest friend in the world. But the owner seems to somehow get a pass because the owner hangs out with Meek Mill and Elton John and a lot of far left wing, obviously, not,
people,
right? Right. A lot of entertainers.
Sure.
But again, Tom Brady is condemned over this. I think it still resonates. It seems like it resonates some with you, like he's hidden it or something.
No, just from the standpoint, just that at the time, if you had that hat in and you have all these pictures of you playing golf with him, you can't act like you don't know him all of a sudden. I think that's just an acknowledgement. I played golf with him.
But
you
Brady
don't
was
I don't care about his politics.
Okay, Brady was quoted in the Boston Globe. This is going back a year and a month before the election. He said, he's a lot of fun to play golf with. And I think he played golf with him several times. Tiger Woods lately is playing golf with him, right? And he was just saying he's a great golf partner. But I think once Tom started seeing politically what he became, then Tom, I'm out. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I understand, though. I understand why you want him to acknowledge
That's all. Just acknowledge
something, but at the same time, you said he wants to win rings.
I'm so mad at
and
you
that's what
about
he's doing.
this debate that I'm going to return my Uggs when I get off the show.
Oh, really? You're not an UGG guy anymore? Okay, on that note.
I can't return mine because Ernestine gave them to me
Oh,
for
you
Christmas.
better not.
Yep.
I mean, they're pretty nice. Different discussion coming up next. Skip says the NBA MVP will not be James Harden. Who will it be? Find out. Stay with us.
No mercy.
James Harden has been on fire this year, scoring at least 30 points in 31 straight games, so it's no surprise that he's the favorite to be the MVP. Harden is followed by the Greek Freak, who has led the Bucks to the best record in the NBA, and Paul George, who is having a career year averaging nearly 29 points a game. We're joined once again by Chris Broussard. Chris, right now, who is your MVP?
I have those three as my top three, but in a different order. I'm going with Giannis Antetokounmpo. I was with Harden up until a few weeks ago, but now I'm going with Giannis. Giannis, first of all, his numbers, Skip, are out of this world. 27 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists a game on 58% shooting. I mean, this dude statistically is off the charts, and he gets it done down the stretch. He's third in the league in fourth quarter scoring. That's big. He plays defense unlike James Harden. He's 15th in the league in real plus minus on the defensive end. So he uses that length and athleticism to not just play one end of the floor. And because of him, largely, Milwaukee is the only team in the NBA that is in the top 5 in offensive and defensive efficiency. Milwaukee has the best record in the league.
Yep.
They have the best road record in the league. They have the best point differential in the league, which usually is a good barometer to measure future playoff success. Giannis has been just spectacular in every way. He doesn't shoot three-pointers, but he doesn't really need to. When I look at James Harden, I was with him, like I said, up to a few weeks ago while the Rockets were winning. And they were winning at an impressive pace during his first part of his 30-point streak. But they've cooled off significantly. They're 11-9 in the last 20 games. And since Chris Paul's come back, they're 4-4. And the reason is because they're still playing like all Harden all the time, even though CP3 is back. They're making CP3 a role player. And I know he's not quite what he's used to be, but still, he's still a very good player, and they need to get more in line with the way they played last year, where it was more of a two-headed monster instead of just Harden doing everything, because now it's starting to catch up with them, and they're not going to win at a high level anymore if they keep playing kind of this one-man band type of basketball. So I'm going with Giannis. Another thing in his factor in his that helps him, Skip, and I don't know if you're going Paul George, but Paul George has another star, I would say even superstar on his team in Russell Westbrook. Typically, whether it's right or wrong, that's always worked against guys. We saw it with Kobe and Shaq. Kobe and Shaq combined have 2 MVPs. Steve Nash has 2 himself. It's because they kind of canceled each other out. And we can criticize Westbrook all we want for his shooting percentage, his free throw percentage, all that. He's still averaging a triple-double, playing good defense. And Giannis does not have another star. I know Chris Middleton made the All-Star team. He's a nice little player, but there's no perennial star next to Giannis Antetokounmpo. So he's number 1 right now for me, Skip.
So, as usual, Mr. Broussard, you made some decent basketball points. I'll give you decent points.
Did I just kill your Paul George argument already?
No, you didn't. I'm just going to make better points about Paul George. And the irony of what I'm about to say is those who have watched this show faithfully and loyally over the last 2.5 years know I have often been very hard on Paul George on this show. I have called him often George Paul, as in just that guy at Indiana, that LeBron wannabe who just genuflects in the presence of LeBron James, as in melting and saying, I'm not worthy, I try and I fail to be a poor man's LeBron James. All that has changed. All that is out the window. Yet all that is why I am now driving the Paul George bandwagon toward MVP. And I believe he's going to catch James and catch Giannis and close with a rush and win Defensive Player of the Year as well as MVP, because what he is doing in spite of Russell Westbrook is just extraordinary and off the charts for me. Again, Paul George is igniting one of the best defenses in pro basketball. I give you, Milwaukee is at the top. They're really good on defense, but so is Oklahoma City without their best defensive player, Andre Robertson, who's still out, and I don't know what his MO is or they're not even talking about him coming back this year, but Paul George has filled that void. Paul George ignites that team on the defensive end even more than on the offensive end, where he has been spectacular. He leads, Paul George, the league in steals. He leads in so many other categories and deflections and various other things that add up to this team is dramatically improved on the defensive end only because of him. And on the offensive end, again, Giannis doesn't shoot many threes. He's not a three-point shooter, but the three-point shot is just so much more dramatic. It has so much more impact. And guess what? Paul George averages 10 a game, 10 attempts a game. He's taken 537 on the year. He's made 41% of them. I watch Oklahoma City every night. I'm addicted because I sit back in awe of his late game clutch three-point shooting. It seems like on a nightly basis, Paul George takes over the game in the fourth quarter shooting threes. And he's in on such a roll with such tempo and rhythm. Chris, if you watch him, it's like he swishes every one of them. When they leave his hand, I'm like, that's good. Shoots them with arc, rhythm, tempo, and he is taking over the team, and he has won the trust of one Russell Westbrook in ways obviously Kevin Durant never was able to. I don't know why. Maybe Russ has grown up. Maybe he's matured. But the truth is, Paul George is carrying Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook has been atrocious shooting the basketball. He's only making 42% of his shots from the field. That's horrendously bad. He's 25% from three. He's 66% from the free throw line. It's like you have to overcome that on a nightly basis. And guess what's happened since January 19th? Oklahoma City is tied with Milwaukee for the best record in basketball since then, since January the 19th. And Oklahoma City is the number one scoring team since January the 19th, 122 points a game, because of Paul George. What he's doing is staggering to me because he has suddenly turned that team into his team. He's now taken 206 more shots than Russell Westbrook. When would that have ever happened with Kevin Durant? It just didn't, because they were vying, they were competing for who got to shoot the ball the most. So he's won Russ's trust. He's won the coaching staff's trust. He's taken over Oklahoma City. He stayed there for a reason, because I think he didn't want to share the stage with LeBron, and I don't think he wanted to be on as big a stage as the Staples Center stage is in his home area here in Southern California. He's obviously from Palmdale, but he loves Oklahoma City. He's comfortable playing alongside Russell Westbrook, and now the irony of this whole discussion is Russell Westbrook is actually playing alongside of Paul George. That has MVP written all over it, and I think people over the last 25 games will see the light and see that Paul George has finally arrived as a bona fide superstar in the NBA. Thank you very much, and way to go, Paul George.
George, look, he's been great. He has been OKC's best player offensively and defensively, but I would disagree on this point. Russell Westbrook is the engine, not the best player on offense, But the engine, if you watch him every night, you said, you see that Westbrook is getting different types of assists now. He is looking for other guys. He's passing up open shots, right?
Does.
And finding the open man rather than going up himself to shoot. Oh, I can't shoot. Let me pass it and get an assist. And I think, look, Paul George, Steve Adams, Jeremy Grant, and Dennis Schroeder are all having career years offensively. I think a big reason is Russ. I want to hear from you, Skip. What's the argument? George has been great. I agree he's been great. But what's the argument against Giannis? Has he been better than Giannis?
He has, because Giannis, it's his team. He's the solo star. I know Chris Middleton made the All-Star team. I'm not sure how, but again, he played great in the All-Star game. I'll give you that. But that's Giannis's team. Every night he gets to do whatever he wants to do. Paul had to figure out how to ingratiate himself with Russell Westbrook. And I got to tell you, I watch these games. I don't know if you can see me right now, Chris, but I watch them like this when I'm watching Russ. Like, oh, what's he going to do this time? I don't know. Is he going to throw it in the 7th row or the 9th row? I don't know.
He's going to get a triple-double. That's what he's going to do.
Well, he does, but they're Jason Kidd Memorial triple-doubles. Now he scores 13, 10, and 10, right? Because he shoots 6 for 29 from the field and he scored 13 points,
Oh, Skip, we don't want you watching games like that.
Skip, you've convinced me that Paul George is number 2. So I'll move him ahead of Harden, maybe.
I made progress.
But Giannis is still number 1.
We still got 25 big games left, and let's see how it plays out.
We made some progress. Chris, thank you for your time. Coming up, will LeBron lead the Lakers to the playoffs? Michael Rappaport is here. Can't wait to hear what he has to say next.
No mercy.
Well, the Lakers season has not gone as planned. They're currently 3 games out of the 8th seed in the West with 25 games left in the season. And the Lakers still have 15 games against teams with a winning record. We're joined by our friend, Michael Rappaport, host of the I Am Rappaport Stereo podcast. Michael, good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, simple question, how far will the Lakers go this year?
They're going to get bumped out of the first round of the playoffs.
But they are in the playoffs.
I believe the Lakers will make it to the playoffs. I believe that LeBron will empty the tank. I think the young players, the Kuzma and those guys will step up to the plate. It won't be easy, and it'll be almost at playoff run intensity. If LeBron is on the floor, we don't know about his groin. But if he's on the floor, I believe the Lakers will make it to the playoffs. And if they're in the 7th seed or the 8th seed, which I think they'll be in the 8th seed, they're getting bumped out of the first round. This season is a wash. And I feel like LeBron James is preparing for this. He's been preparing for it since he made the statement, which you guys talked about, but I feel like it should have gotten more attention when he said, I don't need to chase anything else on the basketball court. And in my opinion, it's time to start thinking about retirement, okay? Because you want to go out on top. The injuries are going to continue to come, and I don't wish that on any player. I want to be clear on that. I don't wish that on any athlete. Okay. The injuries are going to continue to come because, as we all know, Father Time is undefeated. But this didn't go the way he planned on doing it. I don't think Anthony Davis is coming to the Lakers this offseason. I don't think any of these big-name guys are coming to the Lakers because, as the great Kevin Durant said, it's toxic being around LeBron. Yep. The environment, it's chaotic. It is. This season was chaotic, and he's been able to push talent and quote-unquote goat himself into championships, into winning championships. That's over. That's over. He like Father Time can only deal with so much. And I feel like at this point, my prediction, he's not going to make it to the 4th year of his contract with the Lakers. Okay. He's going to either retire or his body's going to break down. And I want to be clear, I don't wish that on any athlete. Okay, but that's what's going to happen.
You're going to say LeBron James is retiring at 37?
LeBron James is going to retire in 2 years.
Ooh, that'd be 36.
Yeah.
Right?
2 more seasons. I think he's going to have to because he's not going to want to. He's not going to want to not be. It's like Michael Jordan. We need him to be that. And also listen. He's making TV shows. He's making movies, and now he's Quincy Jones. Right. He's producing a record, and he's doing this during the regular season.
He just announced Space Jam 2 is going to shoot in the this summer.
It's weird that he's going to star in Space Jam 2 because when Michael Jordan did it, he was at the peak, and LeBron James is at the fall of his career.
Ooh. Well, LeBron will have plenty of time to shoot that because he won't make the playoffs.
They can start shooting early.
They can start shooting early, and Michael, I hear you, and you're like most people. You expect LeBron James to turn on some magic switch. And because of the history of him always making the playoffs and the finals out of the East, yes, I understand why you think that he's still going to make it. Everybody wants to write the script that the Kings, who have played well all year, are going to fold up at the end.
They're not.
And people are saying, well, the Clippers are trying to hold on to their pick, so they're going to lose games on purpose at the end because they want. But they went to Boston, came back from a 28. This is a team that supposedly is tanking, and they won a game. They were down 28 on the road to Boston. So maybe the organization would like them to tank, but I'm not so sure that the players are going to buy into that and that. Here's the other part. 25 games to go. Everybody expects the Lakers to be something they haven't been all year, which is 15 games, as you mentioned, Jenny, against teams over 500.
Yep.
They're 12-19 against teams over 500. And I'll tell you, if they don't get it done and put themselves in position before the last 20 games, the last 5 games of the season are all against teams that are currently in the playoffs. So you can't wait till the end thinking you're going to win if you don't do it before that.
Got to start tomorrow versus the Houston Rockets.
Absolutely, and you got to win some of those games that you're not expected to win. To think that you're going to beat the Pelicans all 3 games. We saw what the Pelicans did to OKC in New Orleans without Anthony Davis. He was at the hospital getting an MRI, and they beat OKC, which was hot, Skip, right? On a great streak.
They were on a great streak.
Here's the other part no one talks about. The Minnesota Timberwolves are 1 game behind the Lakers.
True.
They're going to be in the mix. They haven't gone away. So you're talking about the other 2 teams who are in front of them. They better watch out if the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to get there. And I know everybody's waiting for Lonzo Ball to come and wave his magic wand. And
we
Chris
don't have a
Broussard
wand.
says that he's the defensive guy that's going to turn everything. I'm just not buying it because LeBron, Skip, and Michael, he doesn't play defense. And if he's not, whether it's healthy enough to play defense or doesn't want to play defense or whatever it is, they won't be able to accomplish what they need to do. They have to win at a higher rate. The last time they won more than 3 games in a row dates back to early December. They haven't put together the string that everybody tell me, oh, they'll run off 4 or 5 in a row. They haven't been doing it all year. So why do I believe that now all of a sudden they're going to turn some switch on with these players who I don't know for sure have even forgiven LeBron for wanting to package them all up and send them to New Orleans because he doesn't believe that he can win with them. So when you add all of those factors up, add that Luke Walton isn't LeBron's favorite, and that's been thrown out there. This is a mess. I don't believe that they're going to make the playoffs. I really believe it won't be good for everybody, won't be good for the NBA, won't be good for TV ratings, won't be good for our show.
It will not.
It will not. I give you that, but I don't believe they're going to make it, Skip.
I have to say, let you go. In as far as it won't be good for the NBA, it won't be good. Maybe it won't be good for the ratings. It will be good for the NBA because the NBA needs to start preparing for life after LeBron. There's so many great players in this league that we don't talk about on all the teams.
I agree
so many
with
young
that.
players, and at a certain point, we're going to have to cut the cord.
But
So
the
if they
only-
don't make the NBA playoffs, yes, it stinks. But there's plenty of things to talk about. There's plenty of Dame Dollars. There's plenty of Paul George. There's plenty of Giannis's. There's plenty of Torontos. And I think
But
it's
Michael, when he came to Los Angeles, if you would have told anybody he wouldn't make the playoffs his first year, nobody would buy it.
I agree.
Thank you for bringing that point up, because that's my first point off your point. You're saying that the Kings will beat out the King for the 8th playoff spot, right?
Yikes.
The Sacramento Kings will eliminate LeBron James's Los Angeles Lakers.
Plural, singular.
Think about what you're saying. Think about the magnitude and the impact of that. Think about the taint on LeBron's legacy if, in fact, in his first go-around with the Lakers, even though he missed X games with the groin injury, that they failed to make the playoffs. Now, I disagree. I'm hanging in. I'm with you on this. I think they'll make the 8th spot. And the reason I think that, and I know I am occasionally critical of LeBron James because I'm objective about LeBron
Occasionally
James,
you are.
as you are. You're objective about LeBron James. You're very objective about LeBron James. But I'm going to be positively objective. I saw enough through Christmas Day. I saw them get to 20 and 14. I saw LeBron James leave 5 or 6 games on the table in those first 34
I agree with
that
you.
he should have closed. Like, here, LeBron, silver platter,
And we
close.
talked about it, Skip, that those games would come back to haunt them.
Remember-
that they didn't get early on that LeBron could have won.
The Houston game at home early when they had the fight with
right.
Brandon
They choked
Ingram.
that game down
Well,
at
he
the end.
choked
So
it down
what?
at the
Yeah.
end, and then the San Antonio game at home, he choked that game down at the end. And I can go all the way to there were all kinds of games through that first stretch, and yet I would see during the game stretches where I'd say, you know what? This team's better than I thought it would be. And as Kyle Kuzma has grown up before your very eyes, I think he is becoming the closer for this team. He trusts LeBron, as in LeBron's going to feed me the sugar, pass me the rock right on time, right in my shooting pocket. And when LeBron passes me the ball, I feel really good about shooting it and making it from 30 feet. So I think Kuzma will start to carry them. Brandon Ingram's had some good stretches. Lonzo will come back. It's not like whether you like him or not, he won't hurt them. He will help them because he can defend. LeBron played less defense last year than he's playing right now. Trust me on this. He played one-man zone through the playoffs last year. Against Indiana in that playoff series, he would just go stand in the lane. His guy'd be out shooting threes on the perimeter. He'd just be under because he got a rest on defense. And my man Shannon Sharpe would sit there and say, well, he's in his 15th year. You got to give him a break because he needs to rest. Well, that's to your point. Father Time is starting to tap him on the shoulder. And now, for the first time in his life, his NBA life, he's got an injury. It's not a joint issue like a knee or a shoulder or Achilles tendon. I shouldn't put the Achilles as a joint. But again, it's a soft tissue injury. It's a pull. Well, LeBron James doesn't pull muscles, I didn't think. And again, I hark back to that tweet of December 26th when he said, dodged a bullet, back in no time. No. Not back in no time. And now there are reports that he's still favoring the groin. I didn't see it in the All-Star game. I think he'll be just fine.
Here's the one little thing. Mm-hmm. When they lost that game to Atlanta where he had a triple-double and played well, played 43
okay, but
minutes.
Again,
But if he had the numbers,
quarter,
but my point is,
post-injury.
that's a game you got to win, Skip. And that's the one that, if you're a Laker fan, you look at it and go, how did they lose this? And there's a chance they could lose more.
I thought the Philly game, I wanted LeBron to engage in the second half. Like, what are you doing? He was sort of going Lonzo Ball. Like, I'm not part of this tonight. Really?
I think after last season's playoffs, where everyone can agree, he was just so incredible. And I came on this show when the season started, and I said I thought they would make it to the Western Conference Finals via of what we saw last year. I mean, even though it was the East, you're like, yo, this guy's going to – and they did a bank robbery. He did a one-man bank robbery in the first game of the Finals versus the Warriors, and J.R. Smith screwed it up. You'd like, well, he's going to be able to at least will them. But I think that –
I thought LeBron screwed up.
He did, passing the ball to George Hill. He would have been better off passing to Benny Hill.
Somebody missed
Benny Hill.
Somebody missed a free throw.
Who remembers Benny Hill except Rob Parker?
Us three.
Yeah.
No one forgets around here.
The fact of the matter is that this has gone way worse than I thought, and I think anyone could have predicted. And I think that unless he could pull it off. It's like betting against Brady.
But it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, he's below 500 for the first time since his rookie year at the All-Star break. So this is a low for him. This is a big challenge to get back to the
Vegas
playoffs.
I'm happy about it.
Vegas
is saying it's 50-50 whether they make the playoffs.
Vegas
If they
knows
don't
a
make
lot,
the playoffs,
guys.
can I just do my reaction?
That's a good
Oh,
one.
God. We're going to be seeing more of that.
Do I get to see that?
Right on cue. Very nice.
Guys, Damian Lillard says he has no interest in joining a super team, but is that a mistake? We'll discuss all that next.
No mercy.
So the latest trend in the league is for All-Stars to team up to form super teams. Examples include the Warriors and the Lakers' recent attempt to pair LeBron with Anthony Davis. Well, Damian Lillard is in his 7th season in Portland and hasn't gotten past the conference semifinals, but he said he doesn't want to go to a super team. He doesn't want to go that route. Let's take a listen.
Why haven't you asked to be put in a different situation?
6-7 years of fighting, trying to get over the hump. Even though it's hard, I don't want to take my position for granted. Like I'm saying, I do want to win a championship, but it's other stuff that means more to me.
Got you. I understand.
It's almost like I'm not willing to sell myself out for,
I hear you.
for that.
I hear you.
Instead of impacting
I've never heard you put it like that before.
All right, Michael Rappaport's still with us. So, Michael, Do you like him saying this?
Love it. I absolutely, positively love it. Okay. Listen, it takes a guy like Damian Lillard to make Portland and the Portland Trailblazers sexy. It takes a guy like Russell Westbrook to make Oklahoma City sexy. When you think of Allen Iverson and the legacy, Barkley, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, I don't think that they didn't win championships. That will come up. I think of Allen Iverson willing that MVP season to the finals. We don't go, oh, he was this, he was that, he was that. He didn't win championships. When you think of Gary Payton, the great Gary Payton, we think of his Supersonics, him being called the glove for locking down people, for being the best point guard in the league year after year after year. Yes, he won a championship with Miami. That's not what I think of. I have to remind myself of that. This Charles Barkley syndrome, every night he gets punished on his show.
He was a great player.
Great.
Yeah.
He's a one-of-a-kind, iconic Hall of Fame, game-changing 6'4" power forward when it was physical and he didn't win. So what? When you think of Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier in the world's most famous arena, fight number 1, Joe Frazier won that fight. The image that we all think of, the thing that made Ali extra and made him superhuman was getting off the canvas. So when a guy like Damian Lillard says, I want to win on my terms, and if I don't win, when you think of Damian Lillard, you think of tsunami, you think of get some rest, you think of a guy who's coming at you every single night. God forbid he stopped playing basketball today. That would be his legacy, not that he didn't win a championship. This friends and family, you must win. Otherwise, a guy like Kenny Smith, who I love, he's from Queens. Queens is in the house. He's a champion. He's not on the level of Shaq. He's not on the level of Charles Barkley. He's not on the level of Allen Iverson, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, or John Stockton. He got a ring. Great. Big deal. Robert Horry, he's got rings. He's not on the level of these guys either. Yeah. So Dame Dollar, keep doing your thing. Hopefully you'll win your championship. And if you don't, that ain't going to be the first thing I think about when I think about the legacy of Dame Dollar.
Well said, because I totally agree. Really, well said. Seriously. Because
wow, that's never happened.
Yeah, it's not that this whole idea of teaming up, this AAU mentality has ruined the NBA. I've said it. LeBron James has ruined the NBA, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. And Skip, it was not the Boston Celtics with their big three that started it. Those guys were traded to the Celtics. It wasn't where three guys from the same draft. Right, three guys. Okay. KG played 13 years in Minnesota before he went to Boston. He wasn't in his prime. It wasn't guys who were in the same draft class. Well, no doubt about it. And Damian Lillard here, exactly. His legacy and what he's done up there will not change. And he's not one of those upper echelon guys anyway.
He's not part of the cool kids clique.
No, he's not. He's not. So he doesn't need to go run around and try to do that and people look at it the same way. I always believed from the very beginning that LeBron James sold himself short when he fled Cleveland the first time because he didn't believe in himself that he would win.
Agreed.
I still believe he would have won there, Skip, had he stayed there and built his own team. He was that good. But he was so fearful. He didn't want to be Charles Barkley.
Right.
He really didn't. He has a tattoo with Chosen on his back.
Chosen one
on his back. So he just felt like, well, I can't be this great player.
He nicknamed himself the king.
Right.
Wasn't given to him. He nicknamed himself that.
I only acknowledge one king in the United States. That's Burger King. So I don't understand what he talks about.
All right.
Wow.
He also chose to wear number 23 because he thought he had next.
Absolutely.
We don't have next.
Yeah.
But Damian Lillard, I wish more players. That's why I loved when when Kyrie said, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to go do my.
You can't say the other guy's name on this show. But
you're
good with Kyrie.
Right,
Kyrie works. The other guy.
I know, that's the other guy. But what Kyrie did, he decided he wanted to do his own thing and have his own team. I wish more guys were like that and not following this whole idea that the deck has to be stacked all the time. That's LeBron. This first year in LA, you know what it was supposed to be? It was supposed to be, let's see what we got. Let's let the kids develop, right? And then we'll determine for year 2 what needs to be done. It was accelerated to, oh, my God, I can't win here with these guys. Go get me AD. That's what happened because that's what LeBron always wants it to be stacked for him.
So, by the way, speaking of that guy who quit on the Spurs last year and went to Toronto,
won't say his
just
name.
for the record,
Guy's
the Spurs drafted Tim Duncan. Then they stole Tony Parker at the bottom of the first round in the draft. Then they stole Manu Ginobili at the bottom of the second round in the draft. Draft. I'm good with that.
Yes.
Right? You built it the right way. You built it within the rules. You didn't join forces. You got drafted. I loved what Damian said, and I like Damian as a player, and I agree with every word you just spat out because he plays hard every night, and he takes and makes big shots every night for a team that is not wildly talented, that probably overachieves every year. And it overachieved last year right into a first-round matchup with Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans. Remember, they got swept, and it was inglorious, and I'm sure he was not loved at that point in the city of Portland, but he's all that Portland has, he and CJ and Nurkic.
CJ's another guy.
CJ's another guy. But I love his guts and his grit. And this is, when those words came out of his mouth about I'm not willing to sell myself for for a championship, wow. Well, that's the first time I've heard that in, 10, 15 years. Like that's not the way of this world, right?
Yeah.
What's sad about it is, I'm not sure, I should say this. I'm very sure Damian's not going to win a championship by himself. He's 6 feet 3 inches tall. He made 2 All-Star teams. Then 2 years he missed the All-Star. He didn't make the All-Star team. And then the last 2 years he made the All-Star team. So is he a superstar?
No, he's not
a
on that
star.
level, right?
He's a
star
star,
player.
right? And CJ's sort of not
He
quite
should
a
have
star.
made an All-Star team
Okay,
at this
all right.
point.
They're really good, and they're really fun. Like, I'm a junkie, I'm going to watch anything. But if I turn them on late, I'll watch their game because they're fun to watch because they light it up. And they put on a great show in that building, and they are hard to beat in their home building, which keeps them on the map in a very small market.
Both of you guys will remember this, and I'll never forget it. Isaiah Thomas had a chance to go to the Knicks, if you remember after, right?
Yeah.
And he refused to go. This is when Ewing and them were chasing Jordan. And he said, that's Patrick Ewing's team. I'm not going to New York because guys didn't look at it that way back then. He could have easily gone to New York, right, with Patrick and that team and maybe won another year, another championship or two. He's like, I won in Detroit. I'm good.
That's true.
I have to win a championship or my career is crap. My legacy, it is insane. Listen, everybody likes to win.
By the way, just quick point of order. At the end of Charles's career, Charles Barkley, he did go to Houston ring chasing, but he was over the hill, and so was the team, right?
He was Donut Charles.
Okay,
no disrespect, Charles. I love you. He knows it.
I know.
I mean, it was a disaster. I'm just saying, you're not defined. I mean, everybody likes this cliche. You're defined about how you get up off the canvas, how you listen, it stinks to lose, whether it's ping pong, tic-tac-toe, but I respect the fact that he's like, I'm not going to. That's why he wears number 0. He was never part of that cool kid split, and he's not going to join it now.
Last quick point. One superstar has a chance to do it without joining forces with 2 other superstars, and that's Giannis in Milwaukee right now, small market. They are really good. They have the best record in basketball. They have a chance to break through, and he could win it sort of going solo. So he could do what Damian wants to do for Portland. He's got a better chance of doing it for Milwaukee.
Right. And he doesn't mingle, mix, or anything.
No,
I love it.
Do it. Well, coming up next, guys, Skip is going to do his best to convince you two about the Cowboys and the Super Bowl. You guys ready for it? We're going there next.
No mercy.
The Cowboys won a playoff game last season, and now they have some big decisions in free agency coming up. Defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence had 25 sacks the last 2 years, and Jerry Jones said yesterday that he is, quote, certainly a significant part of now and the future. The Cowboys have also been rumored for a while to land safety Earl Thomas, and Jerry said there have been internal discussions about adding a safety in free agency. Michael Rappaport still with us, but first, Skip.
My turn.
We're talking about your Cowboys.
Yep.
How close are they to being a Super Bowl team?
My Cowboys can make it to next year's Super Bowl without adding a single piece because I'm going to remind everybody my Cowboys made this year's playoffs by winning the NFC East with the youngest playoff team in this year's playoffs. All my Cowboys need to do is grow up a little bit, mature, continue to do what they do at a higher and higher level. My team added Amari Cooper midseason. He's going to get, dare I say, a whole offseason to work with Dak Prescott. Can you imagine how much better they're going to be with 4 preseason games going into a regular season game? Can you imagine how much better my offensive line will be with their Pro Bowl center back in Travis Frederick, who missed the whole season with his condition? Yeah. Wow, and he's already working out now with the team. Can you imagine how much better my 2 young linebackers? I get the 2 best young linebackers in football. Do you realize how much better they will get by the snap next year? I don't know what's not to like. I wish I had a better tight end, but the 3 of them, Jeff Swain, Blake Jarwin, and Dalton Schultz, were pretty good this year, and all 3 had little contributions that added up to a pretty big contribution. So again, would I like to see them go get Earl Thomas? Sure I would. He's going to be too expensive for them. I thought the defense was good enough to win this year. It beat Seattle. I don't know what happened at L.A. But
they got run on.
Well, guess what?
Run on.
We had C.J. Anderson on the show, when was it, yesterday? Yep. And C.J. told me as he was walking away during the break that he has been in some discussions with the Dallas Cowboys. How about a 1-2 punch? He was a pretty good 1-2 punch with Gurley, wasn't he? How about Zeke getting the lion's share? But how about CJ bashing it up the middle every once in a while to take a little pressure off Zeke? I love it.
You mean the way he bashed it up the middle?
No, on my defense.
On your defense that he talked about right here. I'll let you take the floor. I mean, you got to score points in this league.
My only problem in looking at why should anybody, other teams show up and play? I mean, the Cowboys are great. Obviously, you must have changed your quarterback. And number 2, maybe the NFC East is still going to be bad. Is that what we're talking about? They're going to be beat up and injured. Is that the NFC East?
I think my team rendered it bad by beating all of them.
So I'm not buying at the Cowboys because Skip, the thing that you keep ignoring is that the last 2 years against teams over 500, they were 5-9. The Cowboys beat up on a lot of bad teams. When it comes time to win those big games, they don't win. That's why they didn't beat the Rams.
They win the division.
I just told you.
They beat Philly
the Giants were
the
bad and the
Redskins.
Eagles
Wait a
were
second.
bad.
And what happened to the
That's
Redskins?
how.
The Redskins faded.
Yeah.
Mark
Eagles.
Sanchez started the quarterback when they were still in. Mark Sanchez, who I literally thought was a coach. I thought he was done with it. He started a football game when they were going.
Who were the defending Super Bowl champs last year? The Eagles.
Yeah, but they had a bad year. There were injuries. They were all out of sorts.
They actually,
don't you remember?
They
like
actually
partying
added a bunch of pieces. They added Michael Bennett to their Super Bowl team. They were loaded. They got their quarterback back, Carson Wentz, and my quarterback beat him twice. How do you explain that? Those are big games against a good team.
Skip, I get that they won a division. If you want to have a parade, I'll give you a parade.
You want a parade for that?
No,
let's give him a parade.
I might
he
want
wants
one
a
next
parade.
year.
No,
about
let's
this
give him a
time.
parade. Let's give you won the division. We'll do a parade.
I am really threatened next year by the New York Football Giants, Michael Rappaport.
But
I'm scared.
You don't even know what else they're going to have. They got to run
Take a shot at me. You see, he's taking a shot at me.
That's all.
Eli
I'm just sitting here like I'm just like.
Eli won't be back.
I
but you
thought
know what?
Eli retired 2 years ago, but he's still playing.
I'll say this about Dak. Eli Manning and Dak, totally different kind of football players, but you're going to have to get used to it. We won with Eli, and 1 week it was up here, the next week was like this. One pass, it was, you're great, the next, that's the same thing with Dak. He's never going to be that guy where you're like, he's consistent. He's been consistently okay.
I would take Eli Manning every situation, every circumstance. Here's the guy who won 2 Super Bowls, beat the Patriots twice. Including the 18-0. He beat Tom Brady. How can Tom Brady be the GOAT when Eli's beating him twice?
Wait a second.
Remember that, Skip?
2 times.
Am I correct that Eli has missed the playoffs, 6 of the last 7 years?
That's fine.
If Dak Prescott made the playoffs 2 of his first 3 years.
Is it about winning the Super Bowl?
Don't mean a thing.
Wait a
if you ain't
second.
got
Wait a
those
second.
rings.
That ring right there, that's the size of the Super Bowl ring that Eli deserved for the first Super Bowl because he threw the luckiest pass in the history of the Super Bowl.
No, there's no lucky.
It's a little ring.
No, there's no lucky.
It's a tiny ring.
He beat the 18-0 Patriots.
He slipped out of the hands of every single
How
Patriot.
did he do that?
Because
a
he's
miracle.
got grit. He's got tough.
Yeah.
That was the one time you saw him move his feet. He got out of there. Don't listen.
He made that play happen.
The ball
He made
stuck
that-
in Tyree's face mask.
He made a great play. Greatness happens with
Great
destiny
throw.
on
He
your
closed
side.
his eye. He did this. How far can I throw it down the middle
scrambled.
of the field?
He looked like Fran Tarkenton.
And you know
on that
what?
play.
Tom Brady might have beaten him the second time if he didn't miss Wes Welker with that open pass.
How are your Cowboys going to win a Super Bowl scoring 21 points a game in this NFL? Defense
Because
doesn't win Super Bowls.
They might have the best defense. So it can win that Super Bowl. And as long as I got Dak making just enough plays, he always just makes enough plays to win the game. Does that count?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. But they're not going to get to a Super Bowl. Defense does win Super Bowls. I agree with that. An actual Super Bowl game. But if you can't score points, you're not getting to the Super Bowl.
You understand, we added a premier wide receiver at midseason, and all they did is start taking off scoring points.
And then he disappeared a little bit.
Okay, you realize...
He did have a 4-game stretch where he wasn't that guy.
Mr. Parker, how do you explain that my quarterback threw for 243 yards in the fourth quarter and overtime?
It's an anomaly. It happens once in a while.
Okay. All right, we got to go. You did your best, Skip. Michael, thanks for being here. You always bring so much to the mix.
Parade up for Skip.
Will Zion Williamson become the next LeBron? That's coming up next.
No mercy.
Time for our final topic of the day. Rob Gronkowski's future is still up in the air. His agent told ESPN that Gronk's been giving retirement a lot of thought, and a decision will happen in the next few weeks. Gronk will turn 30 in a few months. Rob, should he retire?
I thought he retired already. He should retire. Skip, I don't want to get here's his injury report over the last few years.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
That's too much.
That's
accurate.
That's all the injuries.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing that I looked at. Look at him this past year, Skip, in the red zone. So either Tom Brady is no good and can't get the ball to him, or Gronk is not the same guy. Because if you want to go back to this past year, he had 3 catches in the red zone. Gronk is a monster in the red zone. You can't stop him. In the past, he was so big and strong. Skip, you remember 2011? He had 12 touchdowns in the red zone. Last year, he had 6. It was reduced to 1 this year on 3 catches. As I look at him, he's just a shell of himself, maybe a lobster of himself. I don't know which one. But he's just not there anymore. And I know they flirted with it a year ago about maybe him retiring or moving on. Remember the trade talk? And I just think that if I'm him, I ride out on the sunset with that last catch that he made that set up the game-winning touchdown and go from there.
I was with you all season long until the AFC Championship game. I'm going to remind you, Gronk is only 29 years of age. He looked like a broken-down Frankenstein monster, me, Gronk. He looked like he couldn't run, he couldn't jump, until 54 seconds remained at Kansas City in regulation, and he caught a huge pass from Brady, and until overtime when he caught the hugest 3rd and 10 play to set up the winning touchdown, and until the end of the Super Bowl when he caught the 29-yarder that got them down to the 2. And I said, you know what? He deserves a shot. Another year because he has such rare rapport with that quarterback. That quarterback trusts and believes in him. He just can't make $10 million next year, which he's scheduled to make.
You know, pride sometimes won't let you take a lot less to do the same job.
Yeah, you could be
That's
right.
the hard thing. Well, did he convince you of anything today, Rob?
No, not at all.
No mercy.
Thanks for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Jenny Taft. Join us again at the same time tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern. We'll see you then.
Fox Sports. One of one.